7-8 factor by grouping is today, December 15th homework. You'll be doing page 407, 1 through 22, all out of the Big Ideas book. And this is called factor by grouping. Please watch the video, take notes, and then do the homework. All right, so when we're factoring by grouping, let's just first take a step back and look at our GCF factoring, our greatest monomial factor. When I have something like ax plus 3x, we can divide a monomial. What monomial or GCF do they have in common? That would be an x. And x is what we call a monomial. That's why it's a greatest monomial factor. So when I divide the x out, we're left with x times the quantity of a plus 3. Now, with greatest polynomial factor, we're basically dividing a binomial out, or a trinomial. So, remember with our greatest monomial, it's a monomial factor times the binomial. Okay, so if you see something like this next expression, we notice that there is a y plus 5. Oops, that's Ivan. Okay, sorry about that. So we have a polynomial factor that is in common in both terms, and that's y plus 5. So if I divide the binomial out, y plus 5, out of both terms, what I'm basically left with is x, a plus b. Okay? And now we've got what's called a binomial factor times another binomial factor. So let's try it. First of all, what I want you guys to do is to put them into groups. Now you can rearrange these terms if you see you can find another group. Okay, and now let's divide out a common factor here. And so what I'm looking for is to have a common, either be left with a common amount or pull out a common amount of both binomials. So I have am plus 4a. We know that a is a common factor, and so what would be left, let's rather do it like this. I know that I can pull out an a, and so what's left is, in that first group, is an m plus 4, and in the next group, I can divide out a common factor of 3 plus 3, and so what's left is m plus 12 divided by 3 is a 4, and so what we have is the m plus 4 binomial times what's left, which is a plus 3. And if you multiply that back in, double distribute back, you should end up with this. I know this becomes an MA, boom, right there. I know this becomes a 3M, right there. This becomes 4A, right there. And these two give us this. So again, we set them into groups, and then we divide out. We divide out. What was left. Now I don't always like the way that they kind of write it down. Okay, let's try some. All right, so what could I divide out of number 1? They've got it nice and set up for us. We notice that each term has a y plus 3, so I divide that binomial out, and what's left is the monomial x plus k, which makes its own binomial. Number 2, we can divide out the binomial x plus 2, and what's left is x squared plus 3, both go in the other binomial. Number 3, we can divide out a t minus 4. And what would be left? 5 minus x. Now, the only difference with 4 and 5, which is true factor by grouping, is you have to create a group. That's the dog. Settle down. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is create a little group out of each. Okay, and the first one I can divide out an a, and I'm left with p minus 3. And the second one I can divide out a b plus b, and I'm left with p minus 3. And so we get a plus b, and I have to have at least one binomial in common. And so we're left with that p minus 3. Okay, pause the recording and try the next one on your own. Okay, now let's check our work. Let's group them. I'm going to divide out an a, and I'm left with b minus 1. I'm going to divide out a plus c, and I'm left with b minus 1. Did you understand why? Because when I divide a by a, I'm left with a 1. And so we get a plus c times b minus 1. Okay, so check your work. I'm going to erase it. All right, sometimes the terms are not in order, so you may have to fidget with them and move the terms around, then group them. So, for instance, if I try doing just grouping them right away, you will notice I get 3. Let's see, we can divide out an x, and I'm left with 3 plus a, and then I have nothing to factor out that's in common in that second part. So we may have to move things around. Okay, so let's try moving the x's close together and the two things that have the two terms with an a. And now as I group x squared plus 3x, I can pull out an x. Let me go back and I'll break that down. So I'm taking out an x. I'm left with x plus 3. And now I'm going to divide out an a, and I'm left with x plus 3. And so we have it. And so it's x plus 3 times the quantity of x plus a. Now remember, the x plus a doesn't matter which one goes first. All right. And take a look at that. Now check your work. All right, now try the next two on your own. Pause the recording and see if you can do them on your own. Okay, let's check our work. So we notice that we're going to have to move these around because now I can put the 6 with the 2x and the 3n with the nx, or vice versa. I can move them, it doesn't matter. Okay, nx plus 2, so I'm just flip-flopping the 2x with the nx, and the 3 and the 6 will go with the 3n. So now we group and divide out an x, and group the others and divide out a 3, positive 3, so we get n plus 2 times x plus 3. Okay, and if you double distribute back in, you will see you get what you started. Now, the next one, we're going to group again, move them around, maybe 2x or the 5x, as long as you're grouping them so that each one they have something in common, it should work. So you know what the PowerPoint is showing you is it doesn't matter if I move 3n to combine it with the nx, or if I'm moving the 2x to be with the nx. It will still work out to be the same thing. Okay, now move your numbers around, then group. We can divide out of 5, a negative 5 out of, and I'm left with x squared plus 2 times the quantity of x minus 5. Okay? Or I could have moved it around a different way and done, taken out an x squared, been left with x minus 5, divide out a 2, positive 2, and been left with x minus 5. Okay? Moving on. So opposite factors. Okay, when we have an opposite binomial, remember it's a negative times the quantity. So that would become b minus a. Now we could write it like, let's take a step back. I can distribute and then I get negative a, positive b, or I could rewrite that as b minus a. Okay, that's how they're getting that. So the opposite of c minus 5 becomes 5 minus c. Remember, if I multiply the entire thing, it makes each one opposite. Opposite of 5y squared minus 4 becomes 4 minus 5y squared. Okay. So let's rewrite each of these as a factor, as a product of negative 1 and its opposite. So negative x would be negative 1 times x. B would be negative 1 times negative b. Pause the recording and try the rest on your own. Now check your work. Negative 1 times a plus 5. Negative 1 times 4 minus x. Negative 1 times 3 minus 2n. Negative, remember we're multiplying it as a, if I factor out a negative 1, what's left? I'm left with negative x plus 7. We're just rewriting that as 7 minus x. That's how I'm getting to reverse it. Negative 1, I don't need to do this extra step. Negative 2 plus p, negative 1, p minus 2. Just rewriting it with the. So number 8 will be negative 1 times 5k squared minus 6. Number 1 is okay, so now let's try it. Group yourself, make groups. If you can't find a group, try and rearrange it. We generally do this when we have 4 terms. I can divide out an x, and I'm left with b minus 9. I can divide a 2 plus 2, and I'm left with 9 minus b. So this right here is where I'm going to need to divide that negative 1 out. So instead of positive 2, I'm going to divide a negative 2. Let's erase it. Right? Because it's the opposite. So if I just divide the negative, it will make it b minus 9. So if I just make it the opposite, instead of 2, I'll make it negative 1 times 2. It will reverse the binomial. And now what we have is x minus 2 times b minus 9 is equal to, okay, number 2. Let's try it again. Make our groups. I'm making my groups. And I'm going to divide a k, and I'm left with x squared squared minus 5, and I'm going to divide a 5, and I'm left with 3. Now I'm going to divide a 3. How about if I just go right away to dividing a 3? I'm left with if I divide it by negative 3, I'm left with negative 5 plus x squared. And I turn that around, I've got k times x squared minus 5 minus 3 times x squared minus 5, and now they're the same. We get x squared minus 5 times k minus 3. Okay, number 3. Why don't you pause the recording and do the next two together on your own. Okay, now let's check our work. So we should have grouped n times a minus 4, and then I'm going to divide out a negative 1, because the only thing I can do is a negative 1, and then I get a minus 4, and so we get n minus 1 times a minus 4. Check the next one. I'm going to factor out an x squared, and on the next one I'm going to factor out a y, a 7. So to flip that around, I'm going to have to divide it by a negative 7. Do you need to do this in 2 steps? No, not if you see it. So we get x squared minus 7 times y squared minus 3. Alright, so sometimes you're going to get something, and what do we always have to remember? Factor completely. We start with a GCF first. So notice we have a 2 that we can divide out of all terms. And then we will divide out, group it by px plus 4, px plus 4p, and 3x plus 12. Divide out the p, divide out the 3, and we get 2 times the quantity of x plus 4 times the quantity of p plus 3. And if you multiply those all back together, you will end up with 2px plus 8p plus 6x plus 24. Try the next one on your own. Okay, this one's a little bit trickier because we've got that y squared. Well, we've got the y squared that we can factor out. We've got the 9. And what we're actually left with, what are these called? X squared minus 1 and 1 minus x squared. They are called a difference of squares. So if I factor out that negative 1, negative 9, then I've got 2 difference of squares, which would be y squared minus 9, and x squared minus 1, which is a double difference of squares, which is x plus 1 times x minus 1, y plus 1 times y plus 3 times y minus 3. And we are done. If you want me to go back to that last one. Oops. Let me see. I will go back so you can just double check your work. And that's it. So tonight you are doing page, I had the directions at the beginning, which was page 407, number 1 through 22 all. Please make sure you watch the video and complete the exercises. By tomorrow, we will discuss any issues you are having.